Hello, everybody. Ooh, happy New Year. We are back. Welcome to Courtside with Christy and Gabe right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. I am Christy Winters-Scott, joined as always by my guy, Gabe Ibrahim. Gabe, it's 2023. 20 Jordan year. Like what? Hey, there have been so many upsets this season so
It's been
far in
crazy.
college basketball. We have the WNBA Free Agency, right? The precipice of that getting started. But man, this college season is blowing my mind so far, to say the least.
Yeah, it's been wild, and it is 2023. It's also Courtside 99. Next week's our 100th episode,
99.
so be excited for that. And we do have some news here actually. Before we get into the basketball, we have some
news.
podcast news. We
Okay.
are now, as the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Collective Network, we're going to the Learfield Network, who's going to hook us up with some sponsors and hopefully help us grow this podcast to different college teams, and so hopefully they'll get us out there more. And the only thing that's gonna change for you may hear some ads at the beginning and in the middle of the podcast, but otherwise everything's gonna be the same here on Courtside. We'll be talking about the craziest things that happen in college basketball every week. Now, I do think Megan on Unplugged yesterday, she kind of talked about like the individual games of the holiday break.
Right.
But I want to get your perspective on what's happened since we last talked, which was before Christmas. By the way, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
It's almost Three Kings Day. Dude, the Americans don't do Three Kings Day, right? That's not a...
I don't particularly, but no shade to those who do.
No, I think it's a Cuban thing. So like when the three kings come to visit Jesus in the manger. And my grandma and your grandma leaves you presents in your shoes.
Oh, in your shoes.
In your shoes. Oh. So you get more presents on like January 6th or 7th or 8th. I don't know. I don't know how that came about. But regardless, this will be our I guess this will be our Three Kings episode. Here's some gifts in our shoes, because it was a weird week for you trying to do your top 25. I want to hear about the process and why it was so confusing.
Oh man. Well, if you didn't know, you know now that I have been an AP voter for a couple of years here now, maybe 5 or 6 years, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it was a bear on Monday to go through the list, right, of the top 25 teams in college basketball and choose the lineup. It was so tough. I thought coaching, like you're coaching now, you understand, like the lineup, the rotations are hard to do. That's the hardest part of the game as a coach. Trust and believe. But when you're looking at all the teams, especially in the top 10, top 12, 15, around that, there were a lot of teams in the top 10 in particular who lost to unranked teams, but then beat a ranked team. And I'm telling you, down the line. And it was so difficult because, you have South Carolina, number 1, Stanford, number 2. And then you have Ohio State.
Those two.
Oh, just boom and boom, like done. Easy. And then Ohio State. Kevin McGuff, hey man, bravo to you. Undefeated, 16-0 right now for the Buckeyes. Just an amazing start to the season. So 1, 2, 3. And it's like, okay, easy peasy, easy, right? Boom, boom, boom. After that, Gabe, it took me like 45 minutes to do my due diligence with all of the games that were played, lost. And it was just, if you had beaten, if those top 10 teams had beaten other ranked teams or lost to ranked teams, it would have been easier to maneuver through the decision-making process. But for me, I'm like, okay, you lost to an unranked team, but then you beat a team that's ranked higher than you.
Right. Oftentimes, you lost at home and you won on the road. That's like,
right.
I guess it was a letdown.
I did it though, but it was not easy. That was the toughest one of the season so far. Yeah.
I wonder if this is just kind of like letdown territory, because it is kind of, right after the holidays, you're kind of getting back into emotion. You get up for one game, then you're not able to get up for another. But it's been super confusing. And to round out your top, I'll round out your top 10 just to let people know. So you went Notre Dame at number 4, who has not lost since that buzzer beater against Maryland, has looked very strong. So that's good. And then UConn at 5 because apparently UConn's inevitable.
Right.
Nothing stops them. They don't need any of their star players to succeed. So good for them. Indiana at 6, which is a team I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
LSU at 7 and Utah at 8. And I imagine those two teams are adding to your confusion because they look great. They're undefeated. They're kind of killing teams.
They are.
But they haven't played
Tell it
yet.
Say that.
Now LSU did play Arkansas. Arkansas is a good team. And so I think we can be fairly confident that LSU is good. And let me know if you agree. We can be fairly confident that LSU is good.
Yes.
I don't know if they're a top 10 team in the country yet because they haven't played anybody yet. And then similarly for Utah doesn't even have a win of the caliber of Arkansas at this point, in my opinion. So that's another team that's like, I don't know what to do. Did you feel the same way?
Absolutely. And, when I was saying, the teams like North Carolina, NC State, they lost to unranked teams, but then beat a ranked team. North Carolina is struggling, like you said. What do they have? You said 4? How many?
4 straight losses, yeah.
4 straight losses for
including one to the Miami Hurricanes, baby.
There you
go. I'll leave that alone for the rest of the podcast.
For your Miami shout out. But hey, Katie Meyer, hey girl. Head coach there at Miami. But it kind of maneuvers things when Carolina loses 4 in a row, right? Mm-hmm. They were in the top 10 for a long time. Mm-hmm. They were as high as number 6, right? 5, 6 area for Carolina in the respective polls.
Gave Ohio State a good game.
Exactly. So when you look at that, and even though Utah and LSU haven't played teams ranked higher than them yet, mm-hmm. LSU South Carolina game, I have that circled because I want to see what that looks like in conference play. But when it comes down to it, it's kind of, what have you done for me lately? Your success kind of speaks for itself, and I understand how the rankings work. And it's not, for me anyway, it's not a formula to have to beat people ahead of you to be ranked in such places. And everyone has their own formula. I would like to know what the other voters' formulas are, because I'm all for new things. Trust and believe. Try to figure things out, But for me, it just made sense because of the way they dominated the teams who they have played so far. And even though it's not teams ranked higher than them, they're doing well with the chemistry that they have and what they're presenting at this point.
Well, I agree with you placing them at 7 and 8 because, like, what else are you going to do? They're undefeated. They're good teams. But you look at, and the teams we just described ahead of them are teams we know about. We know the baseline of Indiana. Indiana's probably a 16 team, even when they lose. Yeah, again, even when they lose those games that they shouldn't. You look at UConn. UConn's going to be there because, again, they're UConn. And those other teams have just been playing great. Notre Dame has a lot of good wins in the ACC, and their loss was on a crazy buzzer beater to another ranked team. So it's like you can't push them down past them. But also LSU had those two teams, by not losing, have earned the spot against some of these other teams that have been faltering. And then that brings us to the other two other really confusing teams, NC State and Virginia Tech, who round out your top 10.
Yeah.
And you look at those teams, and hey, those are teams we talked about. I was all in on Virginia Tech winning the conference this year, and they look really good. Last two games is they beat Virginia and they beat North Carolina, but before that they lost to Clemson.
Clemson loss. Then how do you factor that in? Okay, so Gabe, if you're a voter, you look at Virginia Tech's body of work. Love Kenny Brooks doing an amazing job down there, obviously. What do you do when you see the 2 great wins, but then the loss to Clemson, an unranked team?
I mean,
Virginia is receiving votes. Like they're in the, right there.
Virginia's a good team. Yeah, Virginia and North Carolina, they're good teams. I mean, North Carolina's obviously, like we said, struggling, but that's a good team. I don't know. I mean, I think you did it right because what are you going to do with Michigan? Because Michigan had the other team. It's all relative when you look at it, because you look at UCLA, you look at Iowa State, you look at Michigan. And Iowa, those are teams right behind them. Maryland, too. Mm-hmm. They have more losses And while those you could say, oh, those are non-conference games, well, like conference play just started. It's just such a confusing time to be talking about these teams. And for Virginia Tech's case, it's like they are kind of matchup dependent in a certain way just because of how they play through Elizabeth Kitley. So there's just going to be some times where it's like, hey, the other team can figure them out. And it's not like a knock against them, because there's going to be other times where the other team cannot figure them out. Like North Carolina's going to struggle with Virginia Tech every time they play because of Elizabeth Kitley. Now, they did figure it out last year. But I just think like it's so difficult to place these teams. So I think what you did is completely rational. I would say pretty much any of these teams from 9 after the two teams that we talked about, LSU and Utah, from 9 to like 15 in your top 25, I think are interchangeable. You could put them anywhere. Because you look at 15 and hey, Maryland has 3 losses, but guess what? They've been tearing teams up and beating good teams ever since that loss to Nebraska.
Right.
And you look at Iowa, it's like Iowa's top 5 team, and then they fall off against a couple unranked teams against Illinois, right?
How about Illinois with their best start ever in the history of their program? I believe they're 14-2, but they beat Iowa. And it's just, I mean, wait till conference play starts. That's when I think we're really going to see for across the board, not just Big Ten, ACC, but across the board, SEC, all over, Pac-12. It's going to be proving ground when conference play begins. And then it'll be less confusing when we get to top 25 voting, when we see them battle night in and night out against one another, for sure.
I do have to briefly watch a video because I did not see this before, but Shauna, it says, the video is entitled "Shauna Green Celebrates Big Win with the Gritty."
Oh my God, it was so good. Hey, Shauna,
I have not seen this.
It's excellent. Wait, can you look at it right now? Because it's hilarious. She got it.
Really she hit it. She hit it.
She
rocked the baby. She put it to sleep. She put it to sleep.
She rocked it and went to bed, honey. Oh, yeah. It was perfect. Wow. Like I thought Kevin McGuff's Gritty last year was pretty good, but I think we might have to do a coach's Gritty poll because hers was magnificent. She was fantastic.
I don't think we get Dawn Staley to do the Gritty. I'm trying to think.
Oh, I'm sure she's done a lot of other TikToks. Dawn is like killing the TikTok game right now. That's what I call her, the Beyonce of women's basketball right now. Dawn Staley.
She just has so much class. The Gritty. I just feel like the Gritty's not her deal. But if she wanted to, that'd be great. I'm just trying to think of the highest ranked coach. Oh, it's Kevin McGuff. It has to be.
We have to pull up. We should do a side by side of Kevin's Gritty and Shauna's.
Hey, maybe I'll
have people vote. We should put that up on Twitter and which one. Yeah.
I may do that for
overly creative.
Because I was really a big fan of that Shauna Green Gritty. But good for Illinois. And that's another team who's extremely confusing, because you look at this team. All right, so now they have a win against Iowa.
Right.
They have not they've one loss in the Big Ten. But they're really doing well in the Big Ten. Their loss in the Big Ten was at Indiana by 4 points.
Right.
However,
Mm-hmm.
They lose at home to Delaware.
Yeah.
Atlanta Deladon's not there anymore.
Well,
and not to say that Delaware's a bad team, but that's not a team that you want to be losing to. It's a bye game, so you have to win those. So it's a confusing team there too.
And Sarah Jenkins is the head coach at Delaware, and that's my girl. Hey, Sarah, that's a good win for them. But anyway, okay, go ahead.
CAA powerhouse. No, but it's just like it goes back to the point of like, well, I mean, did you rank Illinois? No,
I did.
It's hard to. It's hard to.
I did not, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I need. I need more like leverage once conference play begins for all those teams who have upset these ranked teams in top 10. But that doesn't take you from, and I'm just guessing here, that doesn't take you from in the 50 to 75 range ranking to top 15 because of one win. Like, you have to prove yourself. That's what I'm saying. The proving ground happens when conference play begins and when you're in the thick of it, like 10 games into conference play. That's when we're going to see the proof in the pudding. That's when we're going to see if teams are for real, right? And not just, hey, they got that one good win, which is great. A fantastic win. But now can you sustain that? Now can you make some noise in the conference and really do what you set out to do in October, right? Which was to be playing your best basketball at this juncture. When you are getting into February, that's what I'm saying, 10 games in. Like in February, you want to really be riding some strong momentum at that point. So for me, like a team like Illinois, boy, if they're still crushing it through halfway through conference play, then you're going to see them in the top 25. And it can't just be 1 or 2 wins here against some ranked teams. It's got to be sustained. And that's no shade. That's across, and again, that's my formula. Other people may have their own, situations with how they come to their choices. But for me, that's what it is. Like sustainability. Consistency is the biggest challenge for coaches, players. I don't care. Everybody in daily life. Like, can you be consistent with what you do well and what you're passionate about? That's the real challenge of it all. So conference play brings that out of you.
I might have to clip that for my players. But also, so here's the only thing. Like, it also depends on what the rest of the top 25 does. Because if the rest of the top 25, if the bottom half of the top 25 continues to lose games, I mean, you just saw UCLA lose to Oregon State. That's not bad. Again, Oregon State's not a bad team, but it's a loss to an unranked team. You had Creighton going down. St. John's just lost to Seton Hall, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Kansas has been. Did they lose yet? I don't know if Kansas lost yet. Then Duke almost loses to Wake. Yeah, you just have a bunch of moving parts that, hey, yeah, maybe someone sneaks in. Like, maybe Florida State gets in. Illinois is the 26th team right now. So if Illinois doesn't stumble this week, which I don't even know if they may be in. Florida State may be in. Arkansas may get back in. It's like it's just going to be topsy-turvy for a long time. And let me tell you one team that we have to come back. We have to revisit. Texas. So Texas, really rough non-conference schedule, right? They got killed. They did not look good. They didn't look competitive. But they haven't played too many people yet.
Right.
But they're on an 8-game win streak with an average win to margin of 37.
Well, they're healthy. They're healthy now. That makes a big difference. I mean, I'm telling you. And then Tennessee. Like Tennessee is trying to right what was wrong at the beginning of the season for them right now as well. And Kelly Harper is getting them redirected and back on track. I mean, they started the season ranked number 4. Am I wrong? They were up there in the top 5. So, and then they had some losses, but they weren't healthy, right? So now both those teams are gaining their momentum back because they have people back in their lineups.
Well, and those two. And when you look at our Her Hoop Stats rankings, which take into account strength of schedule and strength of win, all that kind of jazz, like Tennessee right now is, what are they? They're 11th in HHS rating. And that's ridiculous because they have 6 losses.
Right.
Like no one else in the top 25 of HHS ratings has more than, well, I guess Louisville. Yeah, you have a few teams here that are Louisville, Iowa, and Texas all have 4 more losses. And Tennessee, but are in the top 25 of HHS ratings because their schedule is so hard and because they're beating the teams that they have to beat now. And it's like, you look at all 4 of those teams, we could be talking about them kind of back at where they were at, or at least closer to where they were at in the beginning of the season. And if they get going now in February, it goes back to your point. You want to be playing your good ball now.
That part.
Everything before New Year's is great. Everything after New Year's matters a whole heck of a lot more.
Absolutely. Momentum. I'm telling you, we've seen it when the NCAA has the selection committee sit in the room, which I'm glad I'm not in that room because I was in my room for the AP voting, and that was only 25 teams. So kudos to the NCAA selection committee. Okay. But with that, I mean, there are so many things that go into it, but I know momentum and trends, like either way, right? Whether you're trending this way or not, those go into how they factor into where teams go, what seedings they earn. So yeah, you want to be playing your best basketball at that point, but you also want to be healthy, right? And that's what we're talking about with Texas and Tennessee. And obviously it's a non-controllable factor, but you want to be, hopefully knock on any wood that you see, and hopefully you want to be healthy, but be able to sustain what the personality of your team is. And hopefully by then you've defined what the personality of your team is and the expectations of the roles on the team, because you want to be a machine at that point. You want to be able to count on and trust what each player is going to bring, whether they be starters or off the bench, whether they're finishers, right? Everyone talks so much about the starters. Who are the finishers that you have on your team? That's the difference. How do you come into February with those roles defined, with those roles being consistent, having your health? Those are all factors that will be key pieces for each team across the board, for sure.
Yeah, and it's getting to that time. Like we're saying, it's getting to that time. We're gonna really find out. And just to add some more confusion, number 10 NC State lost last night. Is that at home?
Here we go.
Was that at home? Did they? Oh my God, they lost.
Which one did you say? Who did you say, honey?
NC State lost in Reynolds to Boston College. And hey, Boston College is actually playing some pretty good basketball.
They're hooping,
but you know, if you're want to challenge for a title, I gonna cut it. I mean, look, and this kind of segues into the next topic I want to get into. There's one team, two teams in this sport that we can really trust, right? Like not betting list, but like,
yeah,
I have to pick a team to save my life to win a game. The two teams we're picking from are South Carolina and Stanford, and obviously South Carolina's the first one. Yeah. Because you look at every time South Carolina just goes out, they do the same thing every game. They are, to your point, the most consistent team in, forget women's college basketball.
Let's go.
Forget college basketball.
Let's go.
I can't speak that much to Europe right now because I haven't had time to watch. But at least on American soil, I can confidently say they have been the most consistent team over the past 2, maybe even 3 years in terms of coming in every single night and doing what they should do. And that's a huge credit to Dawn Staley. It's a huge credit to Leah Boss. A huge credit to everyone on that team for understanding what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
So we know South Carolina. Be shocked if they're not in the national championship game. Shocked, literally jaw dropped if they're not in the national championship game.
Same.
Stanford, I won't be quite as shocked because I said the same thing last year, and they just, completely went out and played poorly against UConn in the Final Four.
Yeah.
So that leaves me with 3 teams in our kind of top tier that I have questions about. UConn, Ohio State, Notre Dame. So kind of we brushed on these teams.
Yeah, we did.
Which one of those teams do you think you trust more as a challenger for the title?
Man, 16-0 right now for Ohio State.
It's pretty hard to argue.
It's hard to argue that. And I don't know what the Her Hoop Stats defensive numbers say about Ohio State's sustainability of excellence so far, unblemished record. I'm going with the defensive juggernaut. They fly around in their 2-2-1. I remember at Media Day and talking to Kevin McGuff and talking to the players, and how they just said, it's hard to scout what we do defensively because we're just flying around and we have each other's backs. And watching film, you want to have a rhyme or reason, like, okay, they do this, that, and then they do this. But if it's like this, if they're scrambling and running, there are no rules and they're just there for each other, that makes it tough to scout. That makes it tough to compete against because they just know they've got each other. Like, they just know. Taylor Mikesell said, hey, to be honest, we just fly around and we rotate to where the ball is. And somehow it just works out for us to turn teams over. And I love that. You have to have a want to do play defense like that, to play that way. Like, and I'm not even going to talk about their offensive prowess because they're through the roof in terms of being consistent with their offense. But even with JC Sheldon out with injury here and there, they still have been able to sustain their level of intensity and tenacity on the defensive end. And I think that makes a huge difference when you're talking about a possible championship team. Can you put points on the board? All the teams can put points on the board. But, Gabe, who can get stops? I always say it. Everybody always says, oh, go get me a bucket. And as a coach, you want to say, go get me a stop. Go get me
the
a
ball.
board. Go get the ball. Rotate
go get the ball.
to the ball. Like, full rotation. Like, you have to be fully committed as a defensive player to earn my respect, right? As someone who's watching, and I'm not cheering for either team. I'm looking, right? Yeah, you got my respect if you're fully rotation in your defensive schemes, whether it be full court, half court, whether you're trapping, run jumping, whatever it is. I want to see you be a dog on defense. I don't care if you score 20 points or 0 points.
Yeah.
Get me a stop. Our team needs to stop this other team. Be disruptive and fight. And so, I mean, clearly I miss coaching because I have this. I hear myself.
Oh, I heard it.
I hear myself a little, but that's who I trust on the court. So Ohio State, I trust in them because of that, and all of them have the dog mentality on defense. So I'll take them 10 times out of 10.
So I agree with that. I think defense is about want to, and they absolutely want to. And it is fun, like when you can. I think offense is about trust, and defense is about want to. But defense also relies on a lot of communication for that style to work. That's sort of just running around style. Because most presses, you had a ton of presses. Christy had 14 different presses. But in a normal press, you have the rules, right? And when you have that, it makes it a puzzle. So then for the offense, it's just about saying, okay, where's the puzzle? Hey, if they're here, you're here. You throw the diagonal pass. Here you go to the middle. Here you go. It makes it much easier. When it's just running around, it makes it much harder. But it also makes it much harder for the defense. You have to communicate. You have to say, hey, I'm going there. You're going there. You have to be listening. You have to be on one. And that's all goes back to attitude, want to, and coaching. And I think that's a huge credit to Coach McGuff and the coaching staff there for just instilling that attitude and trust in the defense. That's why they're 4th right now in turnovers per game. They're actually a little lower in her hoop stats defensive rating than I thought. They're 18th in the country. 12th in the country in offensive rating, 12th overall in her hoop stats rating. So I do have a slight argument against Ohio State.
All right.
Just because. So their big wins, are against Tennessee, Louisville early in the season,
right?
And then they haven't played that many teams that are ranked or in the conversation of being strong teams. Now they beat the teams they're supposed to. They didn't lose to Michigan State. Other teams have lost to Michigan State,
right?
They didn't lose to Michigan. They handled that. They went to overtime in a neutral site game against South Florida and won the game. So they went to overtime, but South Florida, those are tough cookies down there. So. Just winning that game is a big deal. However, doesn't have quite the impressive resume that you look and say, oh, hey, Notre Dame beat this team, UConn beat this team, South Carolina, Stanford, they beat each other. South Carolina beat Stanford. So you look at the resume, it's not quite as strong. So that'd be my only argument. We're gonna have to find out a little bit more here about Ohio State. They have Illinois, Nebraska, Northwestern, and Iowa. Then Indiana comes to town at the end of January. That's when we're going to find out a lot more about this team. Mm-hmm. So I think my answer, I'm just going to be different because I want to be different. Somehow, and I hate this for myself because the UConn people thought I hated their team for a while.
What?
So now I'm just like, I was going to go full into being a UConn heel and then wait for the Final Four to turn face and say I'm a huge UConn fan. I always have been. I've just been reverse jinxing. But now I can't do that because I just believe in this team, man. They haven't had AZ Fudd. They haven't. Caroline Ducharme goes down. Nika Mule goes down. No one's playing, and it's just they just keep. Gio Noir out.
Their coach is out. Sending prayers to Gio. I hope he's good. I know he lost his mom, and I know that's really difficult. And whatever he's going through, hopefully he'll be all right.
Well, and what trust he has, in his coaching staff, right? To say, hey, yeah. And that's a wonderful thing for him, right? Is like he can say, "Hey, I need to go do what I need to do," which all coaches should feel comfortable doing. But I feel like a lot of them wouldn't, and he does, and that's a credit to him.
Yeah.
And this team just keeps going. Killed Xavier last night. Just steady. Yeah. When was the last time they lost? I don't even know when the last time they lost was. I'll tell you in a sec.
Didn't Edwards go down in the first half with the ankle? She didn't play in the second half, and they still won the way they did last night.
Oh, did she? I didn't.
She did. A left ankle.
I saw the beginning of the game. And I was like, oh, it's over.
No, she didn't even play in the second half. And they host Georgetown on Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, they only they finished the game with 7 available players. So
Wow.
hopefully the average is okay.
Yeah. But she didn't come back. But they were, like you said, it was an early command of the game that they had. So I think even if she could come back, it was good for her not to. You roll that
But
ankle and it's like that's
they've
not a
beaten
good.
good teams. Like
They
they lost to Maryland, and that was their first game with like 7 people. I think that was their first game.
Yeah.
Did Daisy get hurt in that game, or did she?
She
I think
got
she
hurt
did.
right before that.
Right.
Monday, Tuesday, and then I think that game was like a Sunday. But she got hurt right the week right before that Maryland game. December 11th was the Maryland UConn game. Yeah.
So they're just continuing to motor. I mean, they do have tougher schedule. They have a tougher schedule now. I mean, I would say they have DePaul coming in. DePaul, obviously, with Nisamaro is just one of those teams that can get electric. Press is going to be tough.
Yes.
Press is going to be tough when you're down people because you practice your press break with all those people. At St. John's, the Johnnies, they did lose their first game of the year, like I mentioned, but really good team.
Tough
Georgetown here, they have a pretty good power forward sophomore.
Somebody told me that number 15 was pretty good.
And that's gonna and they'll be and everyone's gonna be up for UConn too. So Georgetown and at Seton Hall, tough schedule for them. So we're gonna find out a little bit more about them. But just for me, it's just like I keep at the beginning of the year, I was like, I have injury concerns, I have point guard concerns about UConn, and it's like those things have come to roost, and this team is still just beating everyone on the schedule. And they have to go to Tennessee, and they have to play South Carolina later in the year, so they'll have some more tests.
Right.
Hopefully they're more healthy by then, and hopefully Coach Ariema can come back, because I just think this team's going to be there. I think this team's going to be in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think, and again, it's kind of like what I was saying before, just the philosophy is in place. Mm-hmm. The expectations are set. All right. The roles are set, regardless of injuries, regardless of who's coaching. Like, they know it's like a well-oiled machine. Like Chris Daly's undefeated. What is she, 16-0 as the stand-in coach over these years for Gino? I mean, it's totally capable without question. CD is an amazing coach and person. Hey, CD. But I just think for the trust factor, I think they all trust one another to know what the expectations are and the philosophies and the roles. Like, everyone has to know. It's not just the coach who needs to have that understanding. And I think for UConn, all of them understand what it takes. Down bodies doesn't matter. 7 kids doesn't matter. Like, you have to come out and perform and play to the expectations that were set forth on the scouting report and work it, right? It's like no excuses allowed. Go and work it. And have trust and faith in that.
Yeah, man, and it's also really, I mean, it's really cool to see Coach Daly. I mean, because she's definitely had head coaching offers. I'm sure she's had more than we could possibly count, or maybe they've just stopped asking at this point, because she's been there for so long and is just so comfortable in that role. That,
absolutely.
Look, I mean, what a luxury to have a head coach, another probably really good head coach, if we had to guess, on your roster behind one of, if not the greatest women's college basketball coaches ever.
No question.
Top basketball coaches, we could just say basketball coaches.
Right.
Because, I mean, that is really just a boon for them, and they're going to continue being good. You want to talk about Notre Dame really quick, because we didn't mention them, and they're in that little group of 3.
They are.
I think Notre Dame's a little bit more confusing. They're just a little younger.
How right? So younger. Okay.
Younger. They did beat Virginia Tech. They beat UConn, and they lost to Notre Dame. I mean, they lost to Maryland. Those are kind of their 3 big games.
Yes.
I just think that for them, they need to learn how to win the conference regular season. They need to figure out how to do that first, because that's the first step. You look at the teams we just talked about. Obviously UConn's done it year in, year out. You look at Ohio State. Ohio State won it last year, so that's why we're expecting them to take that next step. But your conference regular season is a bear. It's a bear. And I think, I want to see them really not dominate, because you're not going to dominate. You're going to lose. You're going to lose in conference, obviously, but
Here and there.
I want to see them, comfortably win. I'm going to see what they finished last year in the conference because they were,
Mhm.
they were 13-5 in conference.
Okay.
If they went 13-5 in conference this year, I don't think I'd be comfortable saying they're going to be a Final Four team. If they do what, let's say NC State, Louisville did, they were
Mhm.
17-1, 16-2 respectively. Then
Okay.
I'll feel more comfortable when we go into the tournament. But I need to see it from Notre Dame first, just
Yeah.
because they're a little younger than those other two teams.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think, that Maryland loss was a buzzer beater by the Terps. But I think when you look at the North Carolina victory,
Mm-hmm.
right, I thought that was a pretty commanding win. And that was a number 5 against a number 6 game when it happened. I was on that game, so I saw it in person. Um, it was just interesting to me how, like you said, how young this team is, but they're also very determined. I remember talking to Lauren Ebo at the shoot around, and she just said, "We don't care who scores. We
Mm-hmm.
just want to win. It's a selfless environment for us here at Notre Dame, and we just want to come out and compete." So when you have that kind of organic competitive mindset, I mean, great things happen for you. And I know, they had those other great wins, but I just think for what they want to accomplish moving forward, and Neil Ivy, I mean, as your head coach, I mean, she is commanding respect as a head coach. Obviously, went off to the NBA for a minute and then came
Yeah.
back and is leading this team in a fantastic way. So, I mean, when you watch them, like when I watch them practice and just the way that everything is organized, the way that,
Mm-hmm.
again, they have the understanding and trust, um, but they also have this underbelly of this competitive fire or this wave of competitiveness that comes through, and you see it with Olivia Miles. I don't care how old she is, right? I mean, it's not anything to me. Age is just a number. Whatever. This kid is wise beyond her years in terms of the game, but also she possesses this moxie, Gabe, and you've seen it. Like, she's so
Oh yeah.
confident in the work that she's put into her craft that it comes out not just in her game but in the team's game because she's their point guard, right? So they've taken on her personality too.
Yes.
And Neil
Yes.
Ivy was a point guard. So it's like it's trickling through the program in terms of that kind of communication, that kind of leadership, but also that confidence. I mean, that the confidence piece, we don't talk about that enough in the game. I mean, the confidence piece is major, right? If you have any self-doubt and that comes out as a
Mm-hmm.
leader, whether it be a coach or a point guard, because those are the two things that really drive the team. Those are the two people who
Mm-hmm.
drive the team in terms of attitude. Um, that's a big deal when you have someone like Neil Ivy and you have someone like Olivia Miles as the two in those seats.
That I think the term for the kids would be they have that dog in them.
They got the dog
This
in
team,
them. Yeah.
he's got the dog. I mean, because you're right. It goes from Neil Olivia Miles when she talks sounds a lot like Neil Ivy when she talks, and that's
Exactly.
like you see that in South Carolina. That a lot of the South Carolina players sound like Dawn Staley when they talk. That means
Yeah.
the message is getting through and getting through to everyone. But it is
True.
it's a team of dogs. I mean, Maddie Westfeld's a dog. They have a Mabry. A Mabry's always going to be a dog.
Avery's.
Sonia Citrone is just a fantastic player,
He's
just
like,
really really special.
I
And then you
love
have
her.
Lauren Ebo. I think Lauren
Yeah.
Ebo's made a huge difference for them, not only in terms of the
Yeah.
attitude, but just in terms of putting people in the right positions when they need a center, like she did
Yeah.
in that Virginia Tech game.
Yep.
It makes things a lot easier when you have a real center who's willing to do the dirty work and willing to
Absolutely.
post up and wanting to post up, because not a lot of centers want to post up anymore. Like, you want to get in there,
What is that?
you want to bang around, right? And it's like
Absolutely. Touch your body.
it's really it's an interesting mix. I'm excited to see where they go, but again, I got to see more. But yeah, this team absolutely has the dog in
Yeah.
them. And I think Neil Ivy, that what she's done there to bring
Mhm.
this team back to the top of
Yeah.
women's college basketball has been
Yeah.
really impressive. So good on the program, good on her.
Yeah.
Even though I don't like Notre Dame, but that's mainly their football team. I have no problem with Notre Dame
Oh,
outside of the football field.
okay, we're not talking
But
football. You're good.
well, noising a little bit. Noising a little bit as a Miami fan. Miami almost got him too, though.
Yeah.
The Canes. I don't think we stopped hearing about the Canes this year, folks. Just gonna
Yeah.
tell you that.
I
We're
agree.
gonna
I
have a
agree.
little.
But hey,
We
you were
may.
talking about what?
What was I talking about?
No, you said you no, say it. Say it. You said
Oh, I
about
just think we're
Miami.
gonna be Miami. They looked kind of the same as last year, and then they went to the ACC championship game and won a game in a tournament. Gave South Carolina a run for their money. So just
Yeah.
saying, you
Yeah.
might hear a little bit more about the Canes,
Maybe
especially
a
on this
little something.
podcast.
True indeed. Hey, but listen, you were talking about, how people say, they got the dog in them or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to just briefly examine what exactly that is because, you can say that, but are you a poodle or are you a Doberman Pinscher? Like for me, you need to go ahead and narrow that down. Are you a dog, all right? But what kind of dog? Like, what kind of dog are you? Like, and I think when teams get into conference season, that's when we're going to see who the poodles are and who the Doberman Pinschers are, or whatever the most, I don't know, the most attacking.
Just German Shepherd, I guess. I don't know. So
Sure.
any dog can be mean if you try. No,
Yeah.
but
Like attacking dogs. Who are the aggressive
who has
dogs?
courage, the cowardly dog in them? For my Cartoon Network folks, you guys may remember that. Who has courage, the cowardly dog in them, and who has a kennel full of Dobermans or German Shepherds or just
Yeah. That's what
dogs
we need
ready
to
to protect. Dogs
Yeah.
really ready to get after it.
Say that. Say that. Let's make sure when you're saying you got the dog and you make sure you specify what breed. Thank you. Okay, now you can continue with something.
Courage or coward. Actually, we do it. That's a meme me and my friends throw around when we say someone has that dog in them. All right, I wanted to talk one thing before we do. I do want to just give a little WNBA free agency primer.
Yeah.
If you want more WNBA free agency stuff, actually, you should go check out the mock free agency podcast that came out last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember.
Yeah,
it was right before Christmas came out.
Christmas time. Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
We'll re-promote it on the Twitter account, so make sure you're following there. But that was super fun. That'll give you a really good view of what should happen in the offseason, which is beginning soon. They moved back the date for us, which is nice.
Which is great. Yeah.
3 games, though. I want you to tell me which one. No, I'm not sure you have any of these. Do you have Iowa, Michigan?
I do not.
Okay.
I have Rutgers, Nebraska coming up.
Oh.
And then next week I do have Iowa, Indiana coming up.
Okay. All right. That's Iowa, Indiana. Actually, it's gonna be wait. When is that? Oh, that is in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
That's not next week. That's the following week. Right?
Is that right? No, it's next week, isn't it?
Oh,
it's following week.
I don't have it on the list, Christy.
It's on there somewhere. Look at it, Gabe. You have all the technology.
So they play. I'm looking. Wait, no. Do you have Maryland, Indiana?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then yes, that is on my list. Perfect.
That is okay. Right. That's coming up in the short calendar.
Yes.
I don't have it in front of me either.
The 3 games I got are Iowa at Michigan, 4:30 Fox on Saturday. I have number 11 Iowa State at number 17 Oklahoma, 3 p.m. ESPN 2 on Sunday. Right. So Saturday, Sunday, and then we go all the way to Thursday, which is going to be Chrissy's game. That's Maryland at Indiana. Is that the one? So that's BTN. Okay. BTN 30 p.m.
Yes.
So
that is me.
So then let's talk about that Maryland Indiana game.
Okay.
I'm not gonna ask if Maryland has a chance. Obviously, they have a chance. How does Maryland win that game in Indiana?
I think what Maryland looked like. I just had them at Rutgers this past weekend, and the difference between Maryland this year and last year is that they're applying more defensive pressure, and not just in the quarter court, but in the full court. They're running a lot of different presses, containment type presses, 2-2-1, 1-2-2 type thing, where they're not necessarily looking to trap every time, but when it can happen, they're organically going and taking away things with 2 people on the ball. But what I like most about what Maryland has presented on the defensive side is the way that they are together in it, right? In the quarter court, they don't have a lot of size inside. Diamond Miller didn't really shoot the ball well in the first half against Rutgers, but she was able to come alive in the second half back at home in Jersey there for her. But I just think the way that they have created this leadership piece with Miller and Faith Massonis, the players who are key cogs to the program right now, and then Cheyenne Sellers. I mean, her numbers, like we were examining her numbers from freshman year to sophomore year, and everything like within like a minute difference in terms of the time she's getting on court, 26, 27 minutes a game. Her numbers are like, I mean, exponentially improved across the board, percentage wise, point production wise. I think it's like 7 more points a game, and I think that's the biggest difference in her performance and her skill set this year is that she's not just the defensive juggernaut kid. She's not just the defensive stopper. She's still bringing the defense.
She's still a dog.
She's still, and not a poodle either.
Yeah, German Shepherds have Cheyenne Sellers in them. That's what.
Or
that's
higher. That's what we are. That's what we're looking for, all up in here. Okay, but for Cheyenne, like her scoring ability this year has been a really huge plus for Maryland. So I think if they can have all of their pieces clicking at one time offensively, no lulls for Diamond Miller offensively. Cheyenne Sellers going out and being her true self. Faith Masson is bringing her leadership, but Abby Myers, she can flat out get a bucket, 40% from 3. She can flat out stick it. And that she's going to make those shots, but she's still able to knock them down. She was getting some clean looks. I just think that she's been a key component and X factor for Maryland on both ends. But I think obviously offensively to stretch the floor, I think she's a Katie Benson 2.0 when it comes to her ability to knock in shots consistently.
Much bigger.
But I think against, she's a toughie. But I think with Indiana, with Grace Berger being out and injured.
So is Grace Berger going to be out for that game?
I am not sure. When I had their game early on this season, they were saying day to day with her injury to her knee that she injured in at the Thanksgiving tournament they were in Las Vegas.
That was a Vegas Invitational.
Yeah, they were out
the
there.
One.
Right. But she, they said it's day to day, so it's hard to say if she does come back, what kind of condition she's going to be in. And I have no insider information on when she's back or when she's not. No. I'm just factoring in, like, when you've been out that long in the middle of the season, chemistry has developed outside of you being on the floor. And that's always hard. And you'll see, you probably already know this as a coach, that's hard to break that or to break players back in, right? And when they've missed a significant amount of time, now you got to break them back into this chemistry that's developed over the last several weeks. I mean, that's hard to do. Yeah. That's hard to do. I'm speaking from experience. Tough to do. And they want to play, right? But you don't want it to be at the detriment of the integrity of the chemistry that's been developed, right? It's tough.
Well, and you want to bring him back either in a bad situation. It's like, okay, sure. Hey, it depends how much he's practicing all this stuff, right? But they have at Northwestern. So it'd be you don't necessarily want to bring someone back, cold off an injury to a road game. They don't want to necessarily bring them back to a big game at home against a ranked team. When you have Wisconsin coming up next, that might be the target date on the 15th for her. Yeah. Especially because some of the team will probably be tired against that Maryland team, so it might be a good chance to work her in a little bit more against Wisconsin. So maybe no Grace Berger, probably no Grace Berger based on us reading the tea leaves. No Grace Berger, but still, be a really good matchup. Be a really really good matchup.
Always. Two good defensive teams. Two tough, this season. Two tough, fighting scrappy teams on the defensive side for sure.
Well, and Diamond Miller continues to improve too. I think she struggled a little earlier in the year, but now she's just continued to get better on both sides of the ball and as a leader.
That part.
Really, really impressed with her. And then I had her at 3 on the draft board, so it's not like she can go up that much. But she could go up to number 2. She's not going to be number 1, but she could go up to number 2. So maybe that happens. I know it's happened to some people, some draft people already. So we'll see. But I'm really excited for that one. Now that I know you're on it, I'm even more excited. I get to see Christy one. Yeah. It's wait, do we have? Oh no, I think I'm gonna have a game. So I will watch that on tape delay that day, and then we have to go hang out at the Wizards game. I have to watch that one on tape delay. I think we play someone on Thursday. Yeah.
Yes. I have some Wizards games sprinkled in. I have the OKC studio stuff tonight.
Oh yeah.
So we got to catch up. We have to we have a Hunter show coming up next week.
Yes, we do. So we
have
got
to talk about that.
We'll have to hang out more. We get to hang out at the Capital One Center, which is great. Christy and I, we may get in trouble at some point for being too excited in the press box. We're not rooting for anyone.
No.
Well, I'm not rooting for anyone.
Wait, are you insinuating that I'm a cheerleader, Gabe?
Cheerleader. You're a media coach.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll take that.
That's the other thing. We like to yell at, not yell at, but say what the professional athletes should be doing from the press box. It's very fun.
That's what we do. It's
coaching from the press box. Awesome. I do want to just briefly touch on WNBA Free Agency, just in case some stuff happens. Last year we had some stuff happen beforehand, so I just wanted to get out ahead of just some of the biggest names that are on the move. We have Brianna Stewart obviously at the top, and I don't know what's going to happen because it feels like she's going to have to be the first domino, but she also has these prioritization concerns, and same Courtney Vandersloot, another unrestricted free agency, has those same concerns. So it's going to be interesting if she uses her free agency to kind of push the league's hand or change something, or if she signs later. So it's like, in a normal free agency period, you would say, well, Brianna Stewart's going to go first, and everything else is going to follow, like Candace Parker did a couple years ago. Candace Parker went to Chicago, and everything else kind of moved around her. And Chelsea Gray go to Las Vegas. Nneka went home. Stayed in Los Angeles. So this year, we have a similar sort of deal with Brianna Stewart making her decision, but it might be weird. Then we have, players like Candace Parker out there, Nneka Gumike's a free agent. Tina Charles, Emma Mieseman, Tiara McCowan's a restricted free agent. That's going to be really interesting.
Wow.
And Brianna Jones is another restricted free agent. Really interesting. We do know where one free agent is going, though. Brittany Griner is a free agent, and she's already said, I'm coming back to Phoenix. So
I love it. Oh, my God.
BG makes you so happy.
Ooh, I can't even tell you. I'm so happy for her and everyone who was praying for her and her situation for 10 months. Lord have mercy. But she's back.
Well, and she's gonna be excited to play. She's gonna be.
It's gonna be scary.
She's been close to the MVP every year she's played. Each of the last 5 years. So I would be surprised if she's not there, but who knows how she's feeling. But she's absolutely just very happy to have her back in general. But so she's locked up. That's the only free agent that we know is going back is Brittany Griner. She's already said she's going back to Phoenix. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Diane Taurasi is also a free agent, just for the record.
Right.
We know she's going back to Phoenix for the most part.
I would hope, but I mean, she is from LA, so I don't want to speculate. And again, no insider information, just being speculative as always. And it just piques my curiosity sometimes. To see what I did not think that Candace Parker was going to leave and go to Chicago.
Yeah,
I did, but wow, she did it, and look what happened. And I love Candace. And it's just everyone can prognosticate and think what players may or may not do. That's why we're here, right? To talk about it and think about it, and to set some thoughts into the minds of fans. But at the same time, I was like, wow, Candace is in LA, like she's gonna stay. And then she was like, I'm going to Chicago. I was like, what? So who knows with Diana Taurasi? Who knows, like with any of these players, with Brianna Stewart, like who knows what their final answers are going to be when it comes time to making their choices. Free agency is what it is, free agency. So you get to play your cards.
I'm going to throw out two unsubstantiated rumors as my camera goes out of focus. So I guess it's supposed to be mysterious.
I can still see you. But I'm there too, so I don't know. That's a good thing. Okay, but
I will never go to the eye doctor, just for the record. I'm going to put that. I can't do contacts. I'll take glasses, but I can't deal with the people touching my eyes and all. Just don't tell me.
I'm going to squint. I'm good with squinting.
I see most things, okay? I drive fine. I know where the lines are. What was I going to say? I got completely... Oh, I want to start two rumors. Two rumors. I haven't heard... This is not like official. And this is not like I am starting this rumor.
Okay.
I think Brianna Stewart should consider two teams that may not be
Okay.
on everyone's map.
We have
The Las Vegas Aces.
Wow.
And the Washington Mystics.
Wow. I got my Mystic stuff on today.
So here's the case for the Washington Mystics. Let's say Stewie wants to. This kind of relies on Stewie wanting to go home to the East Coast. She's from New York.
Yes, she is a New Yorker.
She and her wife have a child now. Her wife is from Spain.
Right.
So her wife's from Spain. So East Coast would be much easier than the West Coast to be visiting their families, to be hanging out with their families, to have childcare. But the place that would be closest to Breanna Stewart's hometown, or the team, is the New York Liberty.
Right.
New York Liberty are a pretty good team.
Yes.
They don't have necessarily the same winning situation that you would have with the Washington Mystics.
True.
So if she wants to go and win somewhere and play with great players, such as Elena Delle Donne, such as Natasha Cloud, in an organization with fantastic facilities and a commitment to winning, which New York also has, but Washington has that too, and just a little bit closer to a championship. And if she wants to sign a 1-year deal and be on the East Coast, it could work out there.
True.
Here's the case for the Las Vegas Aces.
Okay, talk to me.
She's going to win a title there. Let me tell you. She goes there and she wins the title. And in the mock free agency, I had her sign a 1-year deal because I thought she's made such a big deal about the prioritization thing, because it is a big deal and she should. That I'm not sure she's going to want to give up leverage, because she has more leverage here as a free agent because she's in the news. She's able to talk. She's able to get more attention for her message as a free agent than when she's signed onto a team. So my theory was she would want to sign a 1-year contract. Which she's going to sign a 1-year contract. She's going to sign a 1-year contract.
I don't know if she would want to do that. Do you think she would want to do a 1-year?
I think so. Yeah, just for the leverage factor of like, well, hey, next year, maybe if you guys don't change the prioritization rule, I'm not going to come back. Maybe she could do that, right? And maybe it's all been handled already behind the scenes, which then that changes things. But that's just my theory. Is like she wants to sign another 1-year deal to maintain the flexibility. If you're going somewhere for 1 year, well, I'll go win a title. Go win a title in Las Vegas and then see what happens. And then you kind of also, to me, you break the league in a way that's going to get so much attention that I think it'd be really interesting for the WNBA if that happened. If we had a Kevin Durant situation where the best player in the league is going to the team that just won the title, and then we'll see what happens to everyone else, because it's not like no one's unbeatable in this league. It's a short season. Injuries happen, so I just think it'd be really, really interesting as a possibility for her. And I know she's a winning nut. And to me, because we're both competitive, I know you wouldn't do this. I would go anywhere to win.
I don't know.
I don't care. I have no qualms about going somewhere to win, because the whole point of the game is to win. So if I'm going somewhere to win, I don't care what people say about it. So I want titles. I want rings.
Yeah. I don't know. Never been in that.
I understand. Those are just two possibilities I want to float out there.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, if she went to Vegas, oh boy, I'm just thinking of that lineup and what it looks like. I mean, Dearica Hamby is going to, I don't know if she's going to miss time, but she's expecting her second baby. And what that looks like for their lineup, and the depth and all of that, that would be an interesting piece for them to add, no question. And
they might have to trade somebody.
They might have to trade somebody financially, to make that work contractually. But I'm just looking at it like tactically speaking, like to throw her in that mix. What? That would be pretty phenomenal for all involved in Vegas. But for her to come to DC, I see the possibilities being endless, with Ariel Atkins around her, with Cloud and Delle Donne around her, and
Austin cleaning up the mess.
Austin, come on, man.
The front court for this team, because they don't actually need to get rid of anybody
yet. Like, wait, go ahead. What?
So the front court would be Breanna Stewart at the 3, Elena Delle Donne at the 4.
Wow.
And Shakira Austin at the 5.
Come
with
on.
Ariel Atkins and Natasha Cloud as your guards.
How long is that lineup, like in terms of activity and length? And
best defense of the league.
Defense. That's what I'm saying.
and we're changing one of the best defenders in the league, Alicia Clark, for possibly the best defender in the league, in Brianna Stewart.
Oh, 7-foot wingspan. Let's not forget. I mean, she is lanky on the perimeter at the 3 spot. And then you've got, I call them turnstile defenders in, and I say that in the best way. Like you got to go through them. Like you can't, you're not going to get around them. You got to go through those guys. You got to go through Cloud. You got to go through Ariel Atkins because they're not going to let you get by them, period. So they're going to be in your way. Okay. Yeah. I just think that would be a phenomenal defensive lineup. And let's take it to the other side of the floor. Offensively, how beautiful is that as a possibility to have Brianna Stewart, Deladon, Austin inside, and then Cloud and Atkins? Stop playing with me.
Think about the injury management you could do for Elena Deladon to have her in tip-top shape in the playoffs with Brianna Stewart. Like, you don't have to worry about the Elena Deladon, the nights where Elena Deladon says, we need to manage my injury, because you'll have Brianna Stewart. Yeah. So it'd be great. It's like, and the reason I say these things in particular with Brianna Stewart, that we didn't really say about Candace Parker, is because I just see her in general as kind of a Kevin Durant analog for the WNBA. She and Durant have a relationship. They talk, they learn from each other. They play pretty similarly when you think about it, in terms of being those lanky players who can shoot, who can defend on the perimeter, who can defend at the rim, who do a little bit of everything for their team, and just their level of superstardom. I just see her as an analog for him. And that's why I'm like, it's like, if I want to play my best basketball, I want to be the best basketball player I can be. Like, not even forget winning. So with Durant, I've always theorized that Golden State move wasn't about winning. It was about basketball. Like that, you can say a lot of things about Kevin Durant. That dude loves basketball. And same with Brianna Stewart. She loves basketball. Yeah. And she wants to be the best. She wants to see how much better she can be. She wants to see how good of basketball she can play. Yeah. Yeah. I think those two places provide her with potential answers to, how good could I make a team? How good can we be as a basketball team? And I don't think it's necessarily about winning or just rings, but it's about, I don't know, it's about the inherent nature of competitiveness and wanting to be great at this sport. It's love of the game, which I'm all about. Love of the game. It's like if you want to be the, I just love it. But there's a bunch of other things that could happen too. Like, obviously she can go back to Seattle and bring Courtney Vandersloot with her. Courtney Vandersloot, a Pacific Northwest native. I don't know if Allie Quigley's playing next year, but she is. Those two could go to Seattle and play with Jewel Lloyd and Brianna Stewart. That'd be cool.
That's a legit team right there. Ooh, all the possibilities, honey. It's taking me, Gabe. You take me like.
How about Emma Meesseman comes back to Washington? We almost did that in the mock-off season. I got really close.
That would be fun. That would be fun too. All of it. Oh my gosh. It's like, like you said, puzzle pieces, man. Like, but that's going to be fun to see how things shake out. And that's going to happen pretty soon here. You said they pushed the date back.
I think it starts on the 15th. I will double check that.
Yeah.
Because Richard
everybody's looking for it. Everybody's looking for it on the same day, on the right day. Because I know they were shifting and shuffling with it.
Yeah. So Richard had a tweet about it, and now I have to go find it. You can also trade future picks now.
Oh.
I believe that's what Richard said.
Okay. Like it.
Yep. That's cool. Okay. All right. So windows for qualifying offers and core designation starts on January 11th, which is next week. So that'll be our first. It'll be our core designations, or restricted free agency offers, or reserve free agency offers from July 11th to the 20th. So it's slightly longer than it was before. Or no, is it? No. I'm sorry. I'm lying. It was shorter. And then the negotiating period starts on January 21st rather than January 15th.
Right. So, okay. It's the 21st that we need to circle and have our eyeballs on Twitter and everywhere else. It's going to be making a lot of announcements going on there.
Yeah. So 21st will be probably when we may start hearing about stuff. And then February 1st is when contracts can actually be signed and offer sheets can actually be signed. And then this year, that offer sheet deadline is going to be, it's going to be a little bit more interesting too, because there's going to be a lot of teams waiting on those restricted free agency stuff
Right.
that can't. And if we've seen before, unrestricted free agency starts a little bit sooner than what they tell you. So those kind of time delays are going to be interesting, but we got a couple of weeks here to continue speculating wildly about what's going to happen. So toss us your theories in the comments. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, we need to know. Like I like to hear, and just like what you said, like all the possibilities, of players and where they could fit and why they would want to go in different cities. I think it would be interesting to see what the fans think as well out there, WNBA fans, basketball fans.
Basketball fans. No, it's gonna be fun for the next couple months, especially because we do that. Then we have, it's about to get crazy. It's about to get crazy for everyone. And then next week's our 100th episode. We have to figure out something special.
We gotta do something. We're gonna get creative. Hey, give us some suggestions too. Tell people, give us suggestions, Gabe, in the comments. I need to tell them. Well, I just
Christy, give us suggestions in the comments, like Christy told you to.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll maybe I can go back and find some memories. We have plenty. We have too many memories on this podcast.
We do have some fun stuff in here. Yeah, over 100. I mean, who knew that the pandemic would bring this great vehicle of communication and I don't know, platform for women's basketball as a whole, just to be able to talk about this great game and have everyone join us in that. It's just really been fun on the social platforms, and I've appreciated it. So I'm going to say that ahead of time before we get into all the mushiness of our actual 100th show. But no, this has just been, it's been a dream. It's like a movie, right? Like we've just been able to move through and just create a space for ourselves here in the game of women's basketball that we love. So it's
a little spot for our community.
Yeah.
A little niche of the internet. It's just been fun.
Love it. I love it.
Christy, let's go home.
Wind it up. Let's go home.
We're home.
I know I'm home too, but we don't get it. Well, we don't have to. Y'all don't have to go home, but we got to get out of here a little bit. I got to do some running around. Gabe's got to do some running around. But thank you guys for joining us today on Courtside with Christy and Gabe right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. Oh my gosh, next week is our 100th episode. Do not miss that. Do not miss it. We're going to get creative. We're going to celebrate a little bit. And Learfield Sports, thank you for picking us up and supporting us. And we are thrilled about the possibilities of that as well. So for my partner, my guy, Gabe Ibrahim, I'm Christy Winters-Scott. And we will see you next time.